Oh, if your name was Rogue, I don't think it quite rolls off the tongue. Like when they say who the fuck is Rogue. Or I still don't know who the fuck Rogue is.
True. That is true. I think I basically named myself based on those quotes.
Yeah.
What would sound better in that situation? Who the fuck?
All right, here we go. Rogue versus the Mage. Now we saw this earlier, and I hope that guy's okay. Looks like a little accident happened over there. Mage, it gets a pretty strong start, and having cards like Snow Chugger is pretty valuable, tucked behind an Annoyotron. If you keep the Rogue stalled, it was very difficult to pick up really easy trades, and then cards like Deadly Poison and even the Oil as the game develops become a lot weaker.
This hand from EntryFee is just one of the best you can start off with. He not only gets 2 of the best starting mechs against Rogue, or at least the Snow Chugger is one of the better mechs. He also gets 2 of the best 3-drop in the stack and the best 4-drop in the stack. We see a lot of players like Tice and Life Coach, for example, they actually keep Blast Mage in their opening hands when they're playing Mech Mage just because of how strong and overpowered it is in the stack, even though you can't play it in the first few turns. Almost certainly going to be a Snow Chugger. Chugger. SleepyShaman shaking his head a bit.
Yeah, that's definitely not what he wanted to see. No easy way to deal with it.
Probably the best open. I mean, that's even better than a Mech Warper to open up.
Does he get rid of it now this turn using Sap or even like weapon up and then get the weapon charge out of the way?
Well, I guess he decides to Sap just because of how good it is.
Jeez.
Oh, Mech
Warper. So this allows him to squeeze in 1 extra mana this turn, or yeah, effectively, or next turn rather. Yeah, this turn he sets it up and then establishes Mech Warper with a cheaper minion next turn.
I think you still throw down a Snow Chugger though. You saw your opponent sapped it, so you know that it's really threatening for him. And then next turn you can go with the Mech Warper into a Noatron play.
For sure.
This is especially good because if your opponent uses a Deadly Poison on this turn, then basically the weapon will not only be frozen, but it'll be at 3 attack. So the weapon will have a really hard time getting through the Noatron Divine Shield.
Right. Divine Shield's so underrated as a mechanic in Hearthstone. So effective sometimes, or in this case, annoying. Just because, like, without Fan of Knives, how are you supposed to deal with it?
Yeah, especially against some other classes like Warrior, for example. They just don't really have anything to that effectively deals 1 point of damage to a single creature without buffing it. Like Cruel Taskmaster, Whirlwind, of course, those are obvious picks, but not really what you want. especially Divine Shield plus Taunt. Sunwalker, for example, is a notoriously great card against Warrior.
Or just weapons in general. It's so strong. It's too bad that Sunwalker has been like cycled out because Sludge Belcher is effectively Sunwalker, but just a little bit less stats.
It's true.
Or maybe even more stats, depends on how you look at it.
Mech Warper isn't going to do too much work here, unfortunately. But it'll probably still stay alive, perhaps.
Yeah, I think he was hoping that he'd be able to do more damage to the Farseer than that.
So do you play around Blade Flare here?
Yeah, but you still have the Mech Warper reducing the cost of 2 of those minions. Does that really help that much? I mean, next turn the best you could do to like utilize the Mech Warper would be to play the Spider Tank and Hero Power.
Okay,
play the Pilot Shredder and Hero Power.
This is going to be a pretty great turn.
Oh man, look at this.
So you definitely don't want to sap the Blast Mage. But do you go for the Blade Flurry? The Blade Flurry essentially gets rid of Divine Shield and kills the Blast Mage. I like that a bit because it gives you board presence and forces your opponent to deal with the Drake. And as you can see from EntryFee's hand, he can't deal with the Drake right now, so he'll have spell power over the next few turns.
Yeah, you have 2. I think it's fun.
Archmage Antonidas. Okay.
Pretty important card, just for the reach damage to finish the game. But it's gonna have to sit this one out for a while. How important is a card like Mirror Entity against Rogue, Monk? It's gonna call you Morg.
Morg. A combination of Monk and Rogue. Mirror Entity, it can be okay against Rogue. It really depends on whether the Rogue draws the South Sea Deckhand and whether he runs what are the 3/2s called? You Goblin Auto Barbers. That's kind of a tech card in Rogue these days, specifically against Mirror Entity, in fact. Especially because if you have a dagger in hand and you play the Goblin Auto Barber, it buffs your weapon to 2 attacks. So you can use that weapon to actually clear the Mirror Entity Goblin Auto Barber.
So not good. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Basically, there's Dalnos that your opponent can copy. There's South Sea Deckhand.
Okay.
And other than that, like, it's alright. But, I mean, it's much better against decks like Druid, for example.
Mm-hmm. Well, sapping this Tinkertown Technician gives the Rogue tempo, but still going to be struggling to finish the game. If Mage can clear this board and there's not enough draw to follow it up, there's still that Dalnos that has the Death Rattle effect. And it's kind of unusual, right? Isn't the Mage the one supposed to be unloading the hand and then pressuring on board? And then, like, top decking the answer to win?
Yeah, typically that is what happens against other decks. But Rogue is also a deck that just tries to unload his hand as fast as possible and then draw into their sprint right when they run out. And I think it has a lot to do with basically SleepyShaman drawing both saps. Sap is a card that it gives you a lot of tempo advantage, but you lose card advantage, and then that's exactly what we see on the board right now.
Alright, what's the best course of action here? I like dropping the Shredder because it's stickiness, but I also like double 3-drop here. Spider Tank and Tinkertown doesn't feel like it'd be a bad move at all, in fact,
Yeah.
the more I think about it.
I like double 3-drop a little better as well.
Yeah, you put out the most stats. The problem with the Shredder is that you just don't have a really good follow-up. You can ping Thanos, but... Oh my goodness. Jeez.
SleepyShaman actually shook his head after that draw. It's actually not really what you want.
Why not? It's so much damage for the next turn.
Oh, that's true. Actually, yeah, the
Maybe he's
there's a lot
shaking
of
his
role
head because
reversal.
he's like, just, you know, he's in awe of how good he is at Hearthstone.
Yeah,
I certainly am.
this actually is pretty good.
But in all seriousness, I think that's a pretty effective draw. As long as he just picks up another thing that can combo with it, right? If he picks up a 5-drop, he can't actually use the Sharpwood Oil.
Well, even if he doesn't combo, it still represents a lot of damage.
Yeah, 4
That's
damage.
that's an 8 damage weapon or a 4 damage weapon that can hit twice. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the Azure Drake is going to stay alive this turn, next turn. I think EntryFee is definitely considering the Rusty Horn in his hand. He has to give something taunt.
Yeah, what does he want to give it to, though? Like the Mad Scientist, so you can force the secret to be popped? Or is it more health on the...
So this is the more defensive play.
Depends on what secrets he has, too, other than Mirror Entity. Prep.
Guess that's okay.
Is that potential? Oh, it depends what he gets off the Thanos, right?
Yeah. Depends what this hits to.
Potentially lethal if the Thanos draws. Wow. The Thanos draws into damage like Eviscerate.
Nope.
No.
Still not bad.
Oh,
no.
man. That could have potentially set the Violet Teacher to be too expensive. Snow Chugger's not going to be that useful here.
So usually this would be a really good draw from EntryFee because he drew all his minions and he curved out really well. But right now, he's the one on the defensive, so he really actually wants Fireballs and Frostbolts to control the board.
Yeah. I think
Fortunately,
he's dead.
yeah, none of these things...
Unless this secret... Is there a secret that he can get off the Mad Scientist? I mean, maybe he doesn't want to show any more information if the game's over for him.
Yeah.
So he passes, or rather he concedes. And game 1 goes over to SleepyShaman. Wow. SleepyShaman, I mean, I wasn't pegging him to go far in the tournament, but if he wins here and he's in the round of 4 against Kalento, he could be the one upsetting and getting past.
All right, so yet another good matchup for EntryFee, or like this is a good matchup at least. The key card in this matchup is the Mirror Entity, and it's so good that you can even afford to play it on turn 3.
It's so disruptive, right? Because
Exactly.
oh, well, I mean, does he want that off the Mad Scientist technically? Unless he has a Kirin Tor Mage.
Yeah. Almost certainly he won't have a Kirin Tor Mage in this kind of deck though. But actually, like, this usually is a really bad hand, the Mech Mage hand, because he has 2 Mirror Entities in his hand. But against Druid, it's probably the best case scenario for having 2 Mirror Entities in your hand. It's the best class to be against. Basically, you need to either have a Zombie Chow or Kazan Mystic in your hand when a Mirror Entity is up as a Druid player, or you're just in a lot of trouble. Oh man. So the Zombie Chow is going to kill off a Cogmaster. Pretty good, I'd say.
It's a big whiff. Pretty... it's just like awful, just because you miss 2 turns and then Druid gets to play things for 2 turns. Or gets time to set up.
This is the saddest turn I've ever seen. Zombie Chow.
Yeah.
So not only is... The thing is, most players in Druid, they only run one Zombie Chow, so this is especially lucky for SleepyShaman if he's also running that 1 Zombie Chow.
Well, I mean, it could have been a little bit better. Imagine if he had Wild Growth right now, Monk. But he's got a good curve with the coin on 3, 4, 5, and then coin into the Ancient of Lore.
I think he's definitely considering...
Does he want to put out the Shade here now?
Yeah. Oh, no, I guess not.
Yeah, I think respecting the curve is a little bit better. You've got time to breathe, right? If you take 2 mana for hero power, it still gives you time to play the Shade. For only 1 mana minion that can come out on the other end.
So we're probably going to see the Mirror Entity right now. One interesting interaction about with Mirror Entity and the Shade is that your opponent's Shade, or the Shade that comes off the Mirror Entity, will always grow slightly faster.
Right.
So that's pretty good, I'd say. But it's at the same time, it's one of the weakest minions that you can get off of Mirror Entity from the Druid player.
It's true. It's no Zombie Chow, at least. And back over to EntryFee. He will have the Pilot Shredder on curve as well. That's a drop that he would have needed much earlier. And that's part of the danger too of drawing the way he has, is that as the game develops, he might not be able to use all of his mana because he's going to be drawing the lower, or the very beginning of his curve, like all of his mech warpers when there's only like 1 mech in his hand.
Yeah, exactly. In a lot of Mech Mage games, we do see that the Mech Mage ends up top decking for the last 3 or 4 turns. And they're basically always looking for a Frostbolt or a Fireball. We saw this in Tice versus his opponent Magic Wind the other day when he was playing Mech Mage against Handlock. Tice actually did draw a spell as his last card, but unfortunately it was the wrong spell. He drew Frostbolt when he really needed Fireball.
Well, there's also the thing where Tice was talking about, did he ping the right minion? Or, there's a scenario, did he ping the face instead of a minion? Wow, look at that. Flame Tongue Totem. Buffing up that Shade of Next ramps. It's gonna be a 6/4 next turn. I mean, a lot of those, what ifs, ands, or buts always run through the mind when you're playing. But I couldn't really blame Tice. I think the one instance where it was like he could have pinged the face instead of kill off a Iron Beak Owl. But almost every scenario is correct to ping that owl, right? So
yeah,
you can't really blame him for that.
So EntryFee has a choice of moves here. The Flame Tongue Totem actually doesn't end up being too impactful. I mean, it is 2 extra damage right now if he decides to reveal his Shade. But I mean,
it's annoying enough though that 1, the Zombie Chow couldn't pick it off.
Yeah. And
then 2, Druid has to dedicate either attack or damage missed, or a hero power of 2 mana somewhere else.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I think EntryFee would have much preferred, like, pretty much anything else. For example, a vanilla 2-2 might have been better. Like, this Flametone Totem basically didn't do anything.
Well, gained him 4-6 health-ish.
Oh,
Not Pagel. I mean, what does that even hit? That shade is a Ravenholt assassin, by the way.
that's true. Now, the Nat Pagel is actually very relevant here because it can tank a lot of Goblin Blast Mage
Takes
shots.
7 damage. Yeah, you're right. And if you feel like it's a big threat that you want to eliminate as a card, it's pretty annoying.
It also tanks a lot of Boombot hits, so it's actually, yeah, like you said, very annoying.
It's a golden Pagel, too. It's not going to miss.
That's right.
If there's any lesson that we've learned from Artosis, outside of the way Execute works, it's how a golden Pagel operates, Monk.
Yeah, I've learned firsthand.
Oh, that's right! That's right. People that may have not remembered this, but the person that Artosis was playing when he infamously tried to execute a Sylvanas was Monk.
That's true.
That's right.
A lot of people try to tell me this story too, and I'm like,
They're like, yeah.
yeah, I know
Well,
this,
you should let them. You should let them.
I should let them and just
Yeah.
smile.
And then you should be like, you should do, Monk. You should be like, oh, really? Show me the VOD. And then they see you on it, and then they're like, oh, okay, cool. You knew the whole time. You just wanted me to embarrass
Yeah.
myself.
Wow,
Of course, you look like a jerk, and then...
You're such a dick, Monk. Just want me to be that guy.
Well, this gives initiative to the mage. Can just plop down the Lotheb in a Snow Chugger or a Mech Warp or whatever he wants to do in tandem with
Yeah,
it.
that's true, but the big issue is that the Druid is still at essentially 30 health. Like, this is actually might be the first game where I've seen turn 7 from the Mech Mage against the Druid, and the Druid is still at full health. EntryFee does have initiative, but Ragnaros might come down next turn, and Ragnaros will get a lot of damage in.
Well, it depends on if he's dropping a lot of small minions versus like a fewer minions. Lotheb does put out a sick amount of stats, and Goblin Blast Mage doesn't really do much on a board that's empty. If this is the face, is that good or bad? It's probably bad, right?
Yeah, probably bad for the Druid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey. He's doing the rag dance, the rag ritual. Will it work?
Is he gonna mouse over something? Rub it a bit?
Oh. That's a field goal. Well, this suddenly got interesting.
Well, I think a lot of minions are coming down on this turn.
See what the Goblin Blast Mage hits. If it's 3 on rag,
Yeah.
that'd be pretty significant. Even 2 on rag.
Okay,
You
so
can ping.
how defensively does EntryFee want to play?
Rag is just a big threat, man. Such a big threat. You gotta take it out. You already have 5 damage on board with the Goblin Blast Mage, which is huge. Do you even have another secret, or do you want to put Snug Choker out?
With this play, I think if he's basically saying I don't have another secret.
Okay.
I think like 99% of mech mages only play 2 mirror entities.
Okay.
And then you have Lothar.
Lothar?
Lothar, he, in the Kingwin for Charity Tournament, he played a counterspell. And it kind of threw Life Coach off, but
Well, I already know the end of that story.
yeah. Basically what happened was they were playing a mech mage mirror, and Lothar got up a counterspell. So Life Coach just used a spare part.
I see. Okay, well, this is what we warned about earlier in the game, that he's just going to be drawing his lower cost minions versus cards like his Azure Drake that he would have wanted to get at this stage.
Usually at this stage of the game, it's kind of like these board states, but the Druid is at a much lower HP, and you can
Right.
depend on something like a Fireball or a Frostbolt to end the game. Interesting, freezing the Sylvanas, I like that.
Yeah, just trying to squeeze out as much damage as possible.
Next turn, he can even consider reversing switching the Sylvanas.
Yeah.
to make it have more toughness and not be able to steal anything.
I mean, he's not playing around Savage Roar and Force of Nature, but you know, I don't think you can afford to, right? You're giving up your only chance to win if you just trade into Lotheb. 2 taunts, by the way. I mean, I see some people play Flame Strike and Mech Mage when it's like when you just first start the ladder season, because I don't really think they have cards like Dr. Boom sometimes, so they play like Flame Strike. But I really don't think it's possible that he has like a big way to AoE clear this, because that's just so much damage on board.
It's interesting that both Druids of the Claw went into charge form. I guess that's slightly better against Fireball, perhaps. It also lowers it kills off both mechs on the field, so it lowers the Cogmaster's attack. Now, how defensively do you play? If EntryFee is keeping track of his opponent's hand, then he still knows he has the coin. So maybe he's thinking, oh, my opponent's top decking too. Maybe I can just play the control game and win from there.
Yeah, he has a board clear, but it costs all of his cards, like every single one of them. I think you're gonna just try to see if you can get Fireball. If you have enough time, that is. I mean, there's also the case where he realistically might not have enough health points to afford that. Especially that Ancient of Lore coming down here.
Savage Roar. So I think you go for drawing cards here.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, if SleepyShaman has been keeping track of his opponent's cards, then he knows there's pretty much only a spare part in EntryFee's hand.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. I'd like to see SleepyShaman actually keep the BGH, because I think the only way he can lose at this point is if Dr. Boom comes out, to be honest.
Well, he's got Savage Roar. If his opponent Dr.
Yeah,
Booms,
that's
he
right.
Savage Roars for the win. So I think at that point it's irrelevant for the board state.
Very
You
fair.
just go for the game-winning blow. But in normal cases, I think you're right. And looks like that's it, right? There's pretty much nothing you can do here. He's just going to concede, and EntryFee goes down 0-2. That Mech Mage not working out for the Swiss.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Just a few months ago, or even 1 month ago, Mech Mage was considered one of the best decks in the meta. In fact, on the Tempo Store meta report, I think it was ranked like number 2 or 3 at one point.
Druid versus Paladin for game number 3. We might see our first 3-0 of the tournament, Monk.
That's true. Every match so far has either been 3-1 or 3-2. On the first day, we had 3 3-1s, and then the next few matches were 5 3-2s in a row.
6.
6-3. Okay, yeah, true. 6 3-2s in a row.
No, it was actually 5. Clento versus Stansiv goes 3-1.
I hate you. I hate you. Okay.
I know. I hate you too, buddy.
Aww. I'm just kidding. I love you. So how threatening is this Zombie Chow? Threatening enough to coin a Wrath? I don't think so.
Not. I mean, the Zombie Chow. I mean, he's got cool shorts, but that's about it.
I think I own a pair like that. He's got a cool shirt too, actually. Or
I don't think you're helping our case with the chats accusing us of, Monk.
okay.
By liking that tank top. EntryFee. Now there's actually a threat that he wants to deal with, right? That Knife Juggler is absolutely devastating in certain scenarios if you leave it up. So wrathing it makes complete sense. And then, how does your curve fill out from the rest of the turns? You got a triple 5-drop, which is pretty decent late game, because then Druid can go for those 5 drops, which are pretty strong and control the board. But how would you recommend going about the next couple turns for EntryFee?
I think this turn, let's see what he draws first, but this turn seems like a simple Zombie Chow plus Hero Power. If you coin out the 4-drop here in the Pilot Shredder, then you pretty much don't have a turn next turn, or you definitely won't be able to fill out your curve next turn. And I think keeping control of these 1/1s is pretty important over the course of the next few turns. Also, on the next turn, you have the option to play your Piloted Shredder, or you have the option to play any of your 5 drops, depending on the situation on the board.
Sure.
I think Harrison Jones could even be a pretty good option.
Yeah.
And even the Sludge Belcher, we're probably going to see the Piloted Shredder coming down from SleepyShaman, so Sludge Belcher could also be a very good option. Just to contest pretty much everything on the board.
Yep. Solid positioning as well.
Exactly.
You want to do put in the middle of minions. Some players, like we were telling Tice yesterday, like you want to put your Pilot Shredders between minions in case the Flame Tongue Totems or the Direwolf Alpha ends up coming out. Even with Pilot Sky Golem too, you want to make sure to do that as well, because if you get like a spell Wii Stopper, you want to have it in the middle of minions.
Good advice. Good advice. I guess
I know, because I've messed up a few times while it's like, it doesn't really matter if I place it. In fact, I was playing Shaman, and I was playing Pilot Shredder, and I put it on the end because of Death Rattle and the Flame Tongue Totem, and then of course I got caught.
Well, I guess I was gonna say, I guess that's why you won your caster show match.
Aw, thanks, buddy. Pilot Shredder could test the board pretty well. I guess he doesn't really feel like Harrison would be good as a board presence, considering that the Pilot Shredder is up there.
Yeah, I feel like you don't really care too much about the cards that you can get off of Harrison.
Right.
You have an Azure Drake in your hand, and you also have an Ancient of Lore, so I think you're gonna be okay in cards. I think what you
that is the worst scenario. There's nothing better than Millhouse, right? I guess if he played
maybe,
Ancient Watcher and he's like, oh dang, an Ancient Watcher, maybe he signs it.
I think maybe Doomsayer would be pretty bad actually, and
that's true. Doomsayer would
Explosive Sheep would also be bad. So maybe the third worst.
Okay. I stand corrected, Monk. What did he say in Chinese? Was it well played or well met?
Oh, I didn't read that, but probably well met. I'd say.
Can you read Chinese?
I can read about 300 words. So
pretty
that's
good.
like hi, bye.
That's like 298 more words than me.
What can you read? Well, I'm sure you know 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so I already just named 3 words, so
All right.
Frodan lied.
I don't know what 3 is.
Like, to be honest, most of the words I do know are like the numbers and then pronouns.
I guess, you can count, I suppose. So I guess you won't miss lethal if you have a Chinese client then.
It's true. Although the Chinese client does use
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That was the joke.jpg. All right. Entry fee, he's on 5 mana here. Setting up a defensive, I mean, he's going to be on the defensive, right? It seems like this is more of the aggressive approach, being able to drop so many minions early on. In fact, he's not even like hero powering to take it slow. He's playing the shielded mini boss so he can grab board tempo.
I wonder why he played the Druid of the Claw here instead of the Piloted Shredder, because the Piloted Shredder can test everything on the board just as well. Plus, it's 1 more health, essentially.
Yeah, I like that he's being a little bit more liberal with his health early on, just so for the sake of protecting these 1/1s. Always threatening the Quartermaster.
EntryFee's gonna look at that. He's gonna be very happy seeing that his opponent did have to skip a turn. Swipe. There we go.
Yeah, swipe's pretty clutch. What does he do after that, though? It looks like he doesn't have enough mana for anything else.
You could just hero power the shielded minibot. I'd be pretty happy with that.
You know what would be really funny if he swiped the Pilot Shredder and then another Millhouse Mana Storm came out, just like tit for tat.
Oh.
It's pretty bad. Dang. I mean, SleepyShaman's happy, of course. And he has the Muster for Battle Synergy, Monk.
Oh, man.
Oh, dude.
EntryFee's gonna need another swipe.
Oh, baby. Oh, don't do that. Do the Muster for Battle. Make him feel really bad. Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, that's definitely the more mana efficient play. Can't really blame him. Plus, it puts out equal amount of stats anyways.
The problem is, I don't like that play as much because you have the healing from Lay on Hands that you're almost certainly going to use on turn 8. Plus, so basically with this minion on the board, it's pretty much a minion that's worth about a 2 or a 3 drop. And I feel like getting the weapon out from Muster for Battle and the 3/1/1s is more valuable than getting a 3/3. Basically, the health I feel is fairly irrelevant.
I do like the idea that you're constantly threatening Quartermasters. So it's like if he doesn't have swipe, he's in trouble.
Like, yeah, as a Druid player here, I feel much less threatened. This is a...
He's confident enough to even just drop Ancient of Lore right here. Innervate. I guess he could take out the 1/1 if he feels like denying that. Holds onto it.
Okay, so he draws something that he can actually play that's not lay on hands.
Right.
Okay, so this actually makes a bit more sense. He was saving the Muster for Battle so that Knife Juggler could hit stuff on the Ancient of Lore. Slightly worse against Keeper, but I think it's still fine.
Well, he gets 2 juggles to the face, so that's very close to killing his opponent, but he's pacing himself. An EntryFee, I mean, he could be on his last turn if he doesn't have a way to swing it right now. Sylvanas isn't it. And he's going to have this Drake go fishing for swipe. That might be his best option here. Or can he heal himself out of range? Let's see. 7, 10, 11 damage. Yeah, he'd be out of range as far as he knows.
I like something like... I prefer something like Azure Drake, and if you don't draw that swipe, you can just throw up a Sludge Belcher too. I think that feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Or you know what?
pretty
Actually,
reasonable.
Harrison Jones, maybe.
But the problem with Harrison is that you're going to overdraw. You might as well just draw with the Drake, right?
That's true.
But it takes away some damage.
Well, you can...
You can innervate first.
You can innervate first,
Okay.
then Harrison.
You'd overdraw by 1.
Yeah, I guess the 1 extra card isn't worth it. Although you do take the weapon out of the equation.
That's
just
true.
1 less damage.
1 less damage. I mean, every single point of damage matters. Sludge Belcher and then Harrison? I mean, so that way you can get rid of all the cards as much as possible.
Sludge Belcher, yeah, coin, innervate Harrison.
Oh, okay. Well, he didn't have to coin and innervate Harrison. Oh, I guess you're saying to draw the cards. But,
Oh, Sylvanas. Oh. That's actually...
Is this lethal? I think so. Yeah, it should be. SleepyShaman should be able to take it. And that's going to do it for this game in this series. EntryFee gets stopped, and SleepyShaman advances to day number 4 to play Colento.
Wow, it was a really quick series. I'm really surprised
really
that
quick.
EntryFee didn't take a game off of his opponent. EntryFee, I would say overall, he played really well in the first series against his Chinese